Ghana has been a signatory to a number of international protocols, treaties, amongst others, on human rights. But back here in Ghana, one of the subjects that has eluded the law for a long time is the subject of witchcraft and criminalizing it. Well, Ghana's parliament actually worked around an Anti-Witchcraft Bill, which is a private member's bill. There are also a number of bodies that are pushing for this bill to be passed and ensure that we have some dignity returned to the northern parts of Ghana. Amnesty International is a global organization with over 10 million people in over 150 countries. And here in Ghana, they've been around for over 50 years. They are obviously the organization to speak to on this matter. Here in Ghana, Genevieve Partington is their country director, and she's our guest here on the Lowdown here on GhanaWeb TV. My name is Echiatisu. Hi, Genevieve.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm very well. It's an unusual weather for us here, but I mean, yes. Lately it's been different.
Well, I'm enjoying it.
Well, but not for all of us. Amy, how are things as work with Amnesty going?
Yes, so Amnesty International Ghana, as you said, we've been in Ghana for 50 plus years. We work on various human rights issues such as the death penalty. I know we're very known for that. Prison conditions. We also work on protests and gender-based violence. We've also done a little work on housing and other areas like trafficking and the likes in the past. So whatever pressing human rights issue we have in Ghana, we try and focus on specific areas and ensure that we do a lot of advocacy and public engagement on those issues.
And that brings us to the subject matter here, witchcraft, criminalizing it, restoring dignity. I know your organization has been at the forefront of ensuring that this bill is passed. I mean, it went through the first stage where it should have been assented in the past parliament, the 8th parliament. It did not see it through. Now it's been reintroduced in parliament. Can you walk us through what the progress of that has been like?
Yes, so initially the bill was introduced based on the sad case of Ikuya Dente, who was lynched in public. And Honorable Sosu decided that this is something that should not happen again. Unfortunately, it's been recurring where women who are usually 60 plus in age are being accused of witchcraft and then being lynched in public, being chased out of their households, houses being burned down, and then they have to go to these camps where they seek a safe place. But of course, based on the research Amnesty has done and other partner organizations have done, the camp is not exactly the solution. So the bill was introduced into Parliament, and unfortunately, once Parliament session was done last year, any existing bills that had not gone through the process, that had not been passed, had to be relapsed. And with the new parliament in session, I can say that the bill has been reintroduced in February 2025, and we are looking to, have the Speaker of Parliament put a certificate of urgency on the bill, because again, this is the second time it has come to Parliament. So definitely it's something that all Ghanaians should be interested in. The parliamentarians, especially the Human Rights Committee of Parliament, which was established just this year, has really shown keen interest in ensuring that the bill was passed.
And how widespread in terms of the accusations and the camps is this matter of witchcraft?
Yes. So, I mean, we look at the United Nations and the fact that we do have cultural rights. So I believe that it's part of our culture to be spiritual, okay? And, thinking things happen in, abstract form and there's spiritualities around, that is something we can't take away from people because you have the right to believe in those kind of things. However, the threshold comes where you profess or proclaim that someone is a witch, and then there are harmful things done to the person. And when I speak about harmful acts, we're not just talking about physical. It can be emotional, mental, economically, anything that stigmatizes the person or puts them in a place where they are discriminated against, then you're moving into human rights violations. And currently, I mean, we have laws on assault. However, in terms of witch doctors and the likes professing that somebody is a witch, we don't really have specific laws on that. So it will be of Ghana's interest to pass such a law on harmful practices in general, so that when women are accused, the accusers can face the law. There are different ways in the bill that the accusers will be dealt with, but the bill also covers how the accused, not just women by the way, both men and women who are accused can access some sort of social welfare and benefits and the likes to ensure that they are also protected under the law.
And why is this? Because I mean, in my intro I mentioned that this is something you've been working on, as you say, to restore dignity to the North. Why is the subject of witchcraft and the accusations of women, especially women above 60, why is it so peculiar to that part of the country?
Yeah, so again, it happens in other parts, but I can't say for sure that they are established camps. So the camps we have in the North, what Amnesty International did was, our research was in 4 camps: Nyani, Patinga, Kuku, and Gambaga. Now in these 4 camps, there's a trend that has been established. They are all in the northern part of Ghana, that is northern region and northeast region. And there are mostly women in the camps. 95% of persons in the camps are mostly women. The last time we checked a head count from Sontaba organization, because they work directly with the camps, there were about 600 women in the camps.
600?
In the 4 camps, yes. And we're talking about only the accused women, because they come with their families sometimes. They come with help, maybe nieces, grandnephews, those kind of things. They come to the camp with family members. So basically the reason why it's so prominent in the North is the underdevelopment situation in the North, in part of Ghana. So you see that with statistics, now these are facts, that the northern part of this country is not as developed as the southern part, in terms of education, in terms of infrastructure, and even economic stability. So what happens is that you find a lot of persons from the north traveling down to the south to look for jobs, because they are not getting that job sustainability in the north. So we look at those factors, and then we look at the women in the camps, and there's a trend. Now most of the women in the camps are 60 plus. Most of them have not finished junior high school. So that is like the basic level of education in Ghana. Most of them have either not been to school at all, or they stopped by class 6. And so that means their education, they have a low level education. A majority of them are also they are Muslim. They are not necessarily Christian, but because some of the camps are supervised by Christian organizations, some have converted eventually. So you have these trends of, being of a certain age and having a low level of education, but also some have mental health conditions that are related to age. So you have dementia, arthritis, Alzheimer's, mental health conditions like that are normally, most likely you can get them for 60 plus. So some of these women are, maybe forgetful and that kind of thing, but unfortunately, these mental health conditions are tagged to spirituality and bad omen. And this is where sometimes people want to accuse women of witchcraft. Now, most of the stories you hear in the camps, these women have been beaten before they came to the camps. You see some of them, lost sight in one eye due to
beaten by the people of the community.
Yes, the community. So what happens is that it's a simple accusation. most of the time by a neighbor or even a family member who maybe doesn't really like you. You've had so much success, and out of jealousy, they could accuse you. And you know, rumors are like fire. They spread so fast. Once you say this person is a witch, it goes through the community. The chief is obliged to call this woman that has been accused and ask her whether she has done these things. Most of the time, it's even a dream. Somebody will tell you that, oh, they dreamt that you came and killed their child, and that is why their child is sick.
Enough to actually...
Unfortunately, that is how it goes in those communities. And then the chief will call you, and then they send you to these camps because the chief cannot guarantee your safety, even if he decides you stay in the village. Because what happens now is you are ostracized. You can't go to any public functions, you can't go to any wedding ceremonies, funerals, because everybody has branded you as a witch. That is why our report, our Amnesty International report, is called Branded for Life. Because once someone proclaims that you are a witch, it's something that is, you know, imprinted on your spirit and your body, and that now everybody knows you as such, and it can even be passed from generation to generation. So once your grandmother or mother is accused, the likelihood of a daughter being accused is very high.
So that means that it doesn't just end with one generation.
Unfortunately, no, it can pass on. So this is very sad because it's a vicious cycle. And you see that many of these women, they are also accused when their husbands pass away. So you see that many of them were widows when they were accused. So, you know, we live in a patriarchal system. Not exactly the best being in a patriarchy. However, that is the condition we have here in this country. So what happens is that that barrier of protection is removed. When your husband dies, now people can attack you on various issues. Oh, you're the reason why I'm not getting pregnant. I had a dream that you were beating my womb. And it's literally a dream somebody had, and they can report this to the chief, and you know, you are accused. And then once you go to the camps, a ritual is performed. Now, when we were doing our research, of course, they are not going to tell us the full range of rituals, but what we know is that a chicken is killed, and the chicken will determine whether you are a witch or not, depending on how the chicken dies. Now, I cannot know for sure whether if the chicken dies sideways or downwards, but depending on how the chicken dies, then they tell you, okay, the chicken has determined that, the ritual has determined that you are a witch. Then what some camps do is they go through a cleansing ritual. So, okay, you've been accused. We know that you are a witch now. So what we are going to do is go through a cleansing process. Now, with that cleansing process, now the priest of the camp would now ask, okay, we've cleansed. The person is no longer a witch. Will the community take her back? Most of the time, sometimes the community say, okay, we'll take her back. However, when the person goes back,
the tag is still there.
Yes, the tag is still there. There's still that psychological trauma that you've been through, that people chased you out of the town, and you go back and people still don't want to engage with you. It's a very lonely road. So a lot of the time, the women don't even want to go back due to safety reasons, and they end up staying in the camp.
All of this sounds like there's a failed system. Is that the case where the society doesn't even support people enough? You mentioned chiefs, you mentioned the community people, you mentioned the camps. Where's the failure?
So again, it's about spiritual beliefs taken to another level, where you are going now to human rights violations. So and then it's a seed of jealousy. Like I said, this is used against these women. What happens often is that, for example, one woman in the camp told us that she had farmland and she was the only woman farmer in her community. And out of jealousy, she started being accused. Her own son accused her of being a witch.
Her own son?
Yes. And through that, he just wanted to get rid of her,
so he
to acquire the farmland and sell it to the other farmers.
But that's his mother.
Yes, but unfortunately, that is the situation we find. A lot of family members are the ones that accuse their mothers and daughters. So what happens is that, there's a trend where you want to oppress women in that side of Ghana, and it happens in other areas. It's a form of oppression.
I want us to just take a quick break. When we return, I'll ask Genevieve about, we've been talking about accusations, but have there been real cases where people have actually been found out to be witches, and how does that happen? This is the Lowdown here on GhanaWeb TV. We'll be back. Genevieve Partington is my guest on the Lowdown here. We're talking about the Witchcraft Bill, Anti-Witchcraft Bill, that's currently before Parliament, and the work that Amnesty has been doing. I was saying before we went on that break that, we've heard many times, these are accusations. Have there been any, for instance, scientific findings, or however it is, whether it's spiritual, that indeed certain people who were accused turned out to be real witches? Have you seen any of that from your findings?
So again, you will find that some of the women will self-profess that, oh, I'm a witch. So there's a clause in the bill that if someone professes that they are a witch, they just might have a mental health condition, so it would be good to evaluate them. Some issues have come out regarding this, because basically you are seeing if someone professes they are a witch, then automatically they have a mental health condition. It's something that we debated about. However, it's also a way of protecting those who self-profess that they are witches. Again, like I said, people are entitled to their beliefs. It is something that the UN even assures that in terms of cultural rights, persons are allowed to have their cultural beliefs. However, your rights end where it becomes a harm to others. So that is where you have the harmful practices. So it's not just witchcraft. You see, we have persons collecting body parts of children with disability to sell them for rituals. Yes. That's also a harmful practice. Another harmful cultural practice is female genital mutilation. It still happens in Ghana, but it is harmful. You have widowhood rights, where some widows drink the concoction in certain ethnic groups, and that is also a harmful cultural practice. So witchcraft accusations is a harmful cultural practice. So even if someone is accused or professes to be a witch, now the challenge here is that it's very interesting, because I thought about it. We have spiritualists, but if you realize, a lot of the spiritualists are men, and when men do anything spiritual, it's seen as prophecy, it's seen as good, not bad. Whereas when we talk about witchcraft, then it is tagged on women and it's seen as bad. That is why in the camps you see very few men who have been accused.
Does it mean the men in some of these camps?
Yes, there are men.
Accused of wizardry?
Yes, there are men that have been accused as well, and it's also very sad, but they are a handful. The men are a handful. You can't compare the number of women in the camps to the men who have come to the camps. So so basically, like I said, the spirituality will always exist, and belief in spirituality will always exist. However, how can we ensure that we don't cross the line and harm people in terms of our beliefs? And one particular one is, just calling out someone to be a witch. Now, we look specifically at, we call them in the bill, it is witch doctors and even pastors. Because some of them in the camp, they were accused by pastors. And, they came out and said, you are a witch, we'll exorcise you and that kind of thing. All those things need to be regulated in our society, because it really brings some form of stigma. So that is why, for example, Amnesty International and other partner organizations, we formed a coalition, which is called the Coalition Against Witchcraft Accusations. So you see a number of actors within that coalition, MPs, partner organizations like Action Aid, Oxfam, the Sana Institute, Legal Aid Commission, Mental Health Authority, they are all there, and some MPs. So just to see how best we can ensure that there's advocacy around this issue.
All of this sounds like a very slippery road we're on. Is it possible that this can actually be passed and implemented?
So yes, it can be passed and implemented only if we also have to work with Ghana Police Service.
Okay.
Because when you see what happens is that now when persons who are accused go to the police, very few go to the police, by the way. When we check to certain districts that receive, that have the camps, when we checked, they barely receive cases of witchcraft accusations. It's because the persons are afraid. Again, like I said, it's a family member that has accused you. You look at it, you don't want to, already you have stigma and you are discriminated against. You don't also want now to be the one accusing your family member, and your family member will go to jail. So it's a very, like you said, it's a slippery slide, and it's so much more compounded than what we look at. Some of the recommendations we have in the report that we did, Branded for Life, is governments to look at a comprehensive roadmap to the eventual closure of the camps. Because at the end of the day, you can't immediately close the camps. Where are they going to go? So there has to be informed reintegration. But the reintegration does not mean you are going back to your community. If you can be taken somewhere else where they don't know you to be tagged as a witch, and you can start a new life without those tags, that should also be possible. So these are things that I know civil society is working on, but it takes a lot of resources. Now, educating your community, because you have to go to the community, educate them why this is wrong, why they shouldn't be tagging anyone, and it takes time for behavioral change. It's not just a one-size-fits-all approach, and it's definitely not something we can solve in months or 1 year.
Tell us about your work with bodies like the Parliament of Ghana. Are you working with them?
Absolutely. Amnesty International has been working with Parliament a lot. So currently we are working with the Human Rights Committee of Parliament, which was recently established. It was established this year. I think it's something that the Speaker of Parliament realized was very important because of the kind of human rights issues that come onto the table. And it was very important that certain MPs, there are about 20 MPs on that committee. It's extremely important that even the MPs understand the human rights issues that come up in our country and not just make personal statements or based on personal experiences. Because at the end of the day, we are trying to achieve a goal. We're trying to achieve international standards. We're trying to make sure we are going on with the UN regulations, but also the Africa AU regulations, because we also have an Africa Charter on Human Rights, which is very, very comprehensive. So it's important that Ghana really follows the path to ensure that we protect the human rights for all. So in terms of our work right now, the bill is in Parliament, and we are planning to visit some of the camps and just to throw light on the situation there.
When you say we, that's Amnesty with the members
Yes,
of
Amnesty International, along with the members of Parliament, will be going to visit these camps and, you know, just throw some more light, because some of the MPs, they've never been there. So it's very important that they go and actually see what is going on and the urgency we need to put on this bill. So that visit is important, and we are also doing work on advocacy and public education. So we're currently working on animation. Sometimes it's very important. Of course, we don't want to be putting the faces of these women too much in social media. So we decided to develop an animation in English and also one language that is very common over there for those accused in the feeder communities. So we are developing the animation. Hopefully it will be out by end of the year, where we are educating persons about witchcraft accusations, the kind of human rights abuses these women go through, and why it's important that government needs to pass this bill, but also why we need to stop accusations because of the amount of stigma and discrimination.
How about the media's role in all of this?
Yes.
Are you partnering with the media? And I'm asking this because the media also projects some of these issues in ways that make it more of criminal issues, like, than just helping the situations. You mentioned animations, that's why I'm asking this question.
Yeah, so media is very, very important and key in this discussion because how you report these issues is also very worrying. You have some journalists showing, like throwing videos, sharing videos of these older women being beaten, being lynched. I always request that people, including journalists, should not share triggering content of persons being beaten. Imagine you get a video of your grandmother being beaten in public. You share to the right authorities. You share to Ghana police. And you share to the authorities that can do something about it. But certainly do not share it on social media or on WhatsApp platforms because it's very triggering and it's not right to share such videos. So that's one thing. But media also has to learn how to report on these issues, you know, and use their platforms to educate the public about witchcraft accusations.
Is that something you put some investment in to help media trainings?
So currently what we do is we do more engagement with media, but Amnesty has in the past engaged with media through media trainings. It's something that we are considering we need to do more of next year, but broadly more on reporting on human rights issues. Because it's not just about the witchcraft accusations, it's other issues of gender-based violence. How we report on rape or sexual assault is very important. How journalists report on these issues and stop making the victims or survivors look like they are the problem, and rather throw more light on the perpetrators and the acts that they have done.
There's also the bit about the accusers. From your findings, are they more male? Are they more female? What's the...
So there's a mix, honestly. There's a mix of the accusers. I cannot per se, because our research didn't capture that, to be honest, but there's a mix of persons being accused. It's not just males accusing women, it's also women accusing women. So like I said, I gave some examples of when you are a widow, when you have not really been you have not gone through a certain level of education, and you know, when you are possibly a first, third, second wife, that kind of thing, you are more likely to be accused. When you are even doing well in your community, maybe you've got some farmlands, you've got some property, persons want to acquire that property because your husband has passed away. How can we drive this person out? Maybe the husband's family wants to take over the property you are in. How do we drive her out? We accuse her of being a witch. So these are tactics that are used to oppress women in society, and that is why it's important that we criminalize it, because we see that it is done on purpose to ensure that women are oppressed.
Now, because the public is also a part of all of this, you and I, everyone, how are you expecting that everyone comes on board? You mentioned not republishing some of these things in the media and all of that, but for the general public, how can everyone help to ensure that this subject is nipped in the bud and ensure that going forward, like you said, dignity is actually restored?
So for the general public, let's not encourage accusations. I think that is the main thing. Let's not encourage, you know, proclaiming someone being a witch. Especially, I have a huge issue with religious bodies that do that. You'll be sitting in church, they'll call someone else, this person is a witch. Those are seen as proclamations. Now, when you do that, the law will deal with you now. That is what we are saying. It's different if you are chatting with somebody and say, oh, she's a witch, that kind of thing. You will not be prosecuted for that. But when you do a public declaration that this person is a witch and this person is the cause of my problems, that is where you will face the law. So public needs to be more aware of the law, the content of the current bill, because once it is passed, implementation will require that we need to educate persons that you can no longer do this. You see prayer camps where they chain people. Yes, all those things will stop when the law is passed, because all that falls under witchcraft accusations. You've been accused, you've been chained and left in the rain and all that until you confess, those kind of things. And that is human rights abuse downright. So we are looking at those things. So please, the public, let's move away from accusations. When things happen to you, they are probably because of circumstances, situations. It can also be the universe dictating something to you. That's okay. It can be spiritual. And I think that's why maybe we have beliefs. You can, pray about it. If you're a Christian, Muslim, you can pray about it if you feel somebody is doing some witchcraft to you. But to go out and beat the person and accuse the person and discriminate, ostracize the person, you've taken it too far. So I just want to caution the public. And also, if they see that somebody is accused and there's a likelihood of the person being beaten, let's try and protect this person, report it to the police if we can. It's very important to do that as well.
Genevieve, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Genevieve Partington is country director of Amnesty International Ghana. We've had a conversation around witchcraft and the fact that Parliament is actually considering an anti-witchcraft bill. We're hoping that, as you've heard, let's all help to ensure that we limit these accusations. Could be your mother, could be your auntie, could be your sister. Thank you for joining us. This has been the Lowdown here on GhanaWeb TV. My name is Echiatisu. Remember to go to YouTube, look for GhanaWeb TV, like, subscribe, click on the notification button so that the next time we put up a video, you are notified. Until another time, be kind to one another.